want to take a side trip for a few moments here because very often when I run this workshop or when I run any project management workshop, somebody will come up to me on break or send me a question in chat. Jim, what's the best project management tool that I should get? And my answer is, well, it depends. It depends on a lot of things. And there's another sheet that's in the PDF. It's called Selecting Support Tools. And it's a sheet that helps you understand the things that you should be thinking about for your particular context before you go ahead and just grab a tool that somebody says that it really worked well for them. The first area of questions that you need to think about is the team. How large is the team? How diverse is the team in terms of their skill set? How widely distributed are they across the globe? Are they all sitting in the same room where you could benefit from something on a whiteboard? Or are they distributed geographically so that you need to work online and carry information in some form that needs to be shared and kept up to date? Do they all work on the same platform, or do we have some on Macs and some on PCs? All of those considerations are important issues. How many of them are trained in formal project management? That's going to be a driver that helps you understand what visualizations are going to be useful. Those visualizations that I popped up at the beginning of the workshop, the Gantt chart, the earned value diagram, they can be built by tools, but if they're not understood by anybody on the project, they're a waste of time to put together. So considerations about the team are really important. Then think about the project. How big is this project in terms of size, in terms of complexity, in duration? If it's going to be a 5 or 6 month project, you can get away with almost a back of the envelope or a single whiteboard set of information as an information radiator to get information out there. If it's going to last 15 years, that's another consideration altogether. Can the project be represented by simply a list of tasks or a project backlog? Or do you need to have the details about progress of each individual task along the way? Are there dependencies between tasks that need to be more clearly understood? Think about those issues. Are you working to a particular methodology that is going to lend itself more towards one set of visualizations than another set? How are you going to tell that story? What is your primary visualization going to be? One of the things that I think is critical on a lot of projects these days, especially technology projects that have embraced agile approaches, is that very often agile approaches tend to miss one of the most critical visualizations, and that's the visualization of the entire project, the story of the project. That could be broken down into iterations or sprints, whatever you may want to call them. But without that big picture, it's really tough to get a handle on when we will be done. And that's an ongoing issue with the way a lot of projects using Agile are implemented, is that there's this disconnect between the needs of the sponsors and the people doing the work. So understand what visualizations you're going to need on the project. Make sure everybody who needs to understand them has the capability of doing so, and keep your visualization simple. Do you need to understand risks, contingencies, alternatives, and how are you going to represent those? How carefully do you need to track time, resources, external issues, materials that are coming into the project? And which progress reporting views are going to be most informative for you? Ask yourself those questions, capture a few notes there. Then we start looking at tools. Does it meet your needs for online distribution of information? Does it capture the views that we need to have to understand the project fully? Is it simple to use and understand, or does it require some training to become good enough to be able to use effectively, and who needs that training? And what are the ongoing platform and cost constraints that you might have with this tool as well? Is it worthwhile? Also recognize that there's no tool that replaces effective communication, preferably face-to-face if you can do so. Even with amazing technology, I really advocate using low technology to build your overall understanding of the story first. Post-its is the deepest technology you might need, or you might use a drawing tool online like Miro to do the same sort of thing before you get really deeply into sophisticated project planning tools or project tracking tools along the way. With any tool, you want to use a minimum subset to avoid getting focused too much on how to use the tool rather than actually running the project. And remember that when we're working on projects and things don't go according to plan, our job is not to get back onto the plan. Our job is to get back to an understanding of a story of how we're going to deliver value based on where we are today. Now, there's really a couple of different architectures of tools that are around. There's the classical project management tools, Microsoft Project and Primavera if you're in the construction field, or Merlin if you're on the Mac, that are going to draw Gantt charts and network diagrams, and they might help you out with resource allocation, issues like that. But they're all tools that are supported by one person at a keyboard. There's a new class or new architecture of planning tools that are available, and it's growing every day, but these are more collaborative tools. Think about Asana, think about Trello, think about Monday.com, Wrike. There's so many of these tools that are available, and they fit a paradigm that is collaboration centric rather than command and control centric. So think about that distinction as you're choosing these tools. And finally, if you want to look at a large list of tools that are available, go to Wikipedia and look up comparison of project management software. And the last time I looked, there was literally hundreds of applications that you could buy. And it's a pretty comprehensive matrix that's not driven by any particular vendor that will help you understand what platform they work on and what they do, what features they have. And you can take your list of concerns and needs and go to that, and you can identify quite quickly 3 or 4 tools that you might want to try out. Take them for a spin and see how they work for you. But recognize that tools are only going to serve you well if you understand what it is you're producing with the tool. My father was a carpenter, and one of the things that he told me very early on was that power tools, when you're working with wood, can make a lot of sawdust in a hurry. And that's the same thing that can be applied to project management or project planning tools as well. I've seen people build beautiful Gantt charts, fills the wall, hundreds of tasks, completely unusable as a project tracking tool and completely disassociated from the way people would actually do work. It's a Gantt chart, and it tells about dates and tasks and activities, but it's going to fall out of date before it's published. So it's not really the most useful artifact to be produced on that project. Pay attention to that, and don't presume that because you have a tool, your project is going to go more smoothly. In fact, most of the time, the opposite is true if you lean on the tool with high expectations. So be careful about selecting tools, choose them appropriately, and make sure that the primary goal is always about shared understanding.